stories for today. A proper place to grieve. 210 flags represent Lafayette lives lost to COVID-19 by Megan Wyatt, staff writer. More than 200 tiny white flags danced in the wind Sunday morning outside St. Barnabas Episcopal Church as cars whizzed by on Camellia Boulevard. Each flag represents a Lafayette Parish resident who has died of COVID-19. This is just for Lafayette. It's 5 times this for Acadiana, said Dr. Tina Stefanski, who leads the Acadiana region of the Louisiana Department of Health, after attending a short ceremony at the memorial. I think it's an acknowledgement for the family and friends of these people that have gone through this disease and have lost lives. We all mourn with them, even though I know that people feel so isolated right now. It's an acknowledgement as a community that they have to mourn and that we feel their grief. The Reverend Michael Bordelon blessed the flags and prayed for the families and friends mourning loved ones during a short ceremony Sunday morning. Heavenly Father, we offer up these flags to be for us as symbols, assisting us in the remembrance of those who we love and miss, Bordelon said. And may they be for us a beacon of hope, knowing that you are doing better things for them than we could ever ask or imagine. Sunday's ceremony was attended by a small group of community leaders, including State Senator Gerald Boudreaux, United Way of Acadiana Director Carly Labar, and Lafayette City Council members Pat Lewis and Annette Cook. Lafayette's COVID-19 memorial was inspired by a similar project announced last week by New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell. Stacy Conrad, a community activist, asked why a public memorial wasn't happening in Acadiana. Allie Roberts, another activist, worked with her to make the idea a reality. The women that said their requests to use city parish property for the memorial were denied. Bordelon, pastor of St. Barnabas, offered the church property where he learned of the project. Others in the community quickly supported the idea, including Boudreaux, the state senator and Lafayette resident, and The Current, a local nonprofit online news outlet. This is about people. It's not about politics, said Boudreaux, who has lost 12 family members to the virus. And that's the part I love, that we can share our love and concern is a genuine way for people who are hurting. On Saturday, just 5 days after conceiving the idea, Conrad and Roberts placed 210 white flags outside the church. The reason this came to fruition, the reason I was on fire for it, is because I found out at the beginning of this week that a friend of mine had died from COVID, Roberts said through tears. I didn't even know she was sick. Grieving families and friends have shared gratitude with Roberts and Conrad for the memorial. A lot of these families didn't get proper funerals because of the restrictions. A lot of them were just immediate family, Conrad said. So it gives people a place to come and memorialize their loved ones, and just for everybody in the community to come and spend some time and have a proper place to grieve. People from Illinois, Florida, and Texas have reached out to Conrad and Roberts for advice on how to duplicate the project in their own communities. The Lafayette COVID-19 Memorial will be on display through next weekend. People are encouraged to visit the memorial to pay tribute to those who have died from the coronavirus or to reflect on their lives while driving by the church on Camellia Boulevard. Visitors can use markers, which are attached to signs around the memorial, to write the name of a loved one lost to COVID-19 on a flag. There is also a bench at the memorial where people can reflect, pray, or meditate. I'm hoping that it's a visualization to really motivate people to continue to try to protect everyone in our community, Stefanski said. We're not powerless against the virus. We know that with simple measures, we can help to prevent further death, further loss, and further grief. We're doing all of this for these people and their families. 3 named Teachers of the Year, Lafayette educators focused on being kind, instilling confidence, serving as role models for students by Katie Gagliano, staff writer. There are a bevy of outstanding educators in Lafayette Parish, but 3 teachers stood out as the 2021-2022 district-wide Teachers of the Year because of their dedication to molding well-rounded young people, building accepting classroom cultures, and challenging their students to succeed. The Lafayette Parish School System annually recognizes 3 teachers at the elementary, middle, and high school level as District Teachers of the Year. The 2021-2022 honorees are Corporal Michael Middlebrook Elementary 5th grade English Language Arts and Social Studies teacher Erica Cornay, Acadian Middle 6th grade math teacher Charity Turpo, and Lafayette High 9th grade English Language Arts teacher Kara Rutherford. The 3 women will represent Lafayette Parish in the regional level of competition. And here are bios on all 3, starting with Kara Rutherford. Kara Rutherford says she immediately began screaming when district administrators and her school leadership team slipped into her classroom to surprise the 35-year-old with the honor. The 12-year teacher says she's not normally competitive, but she wanted this badly. The award has personal significance. Her mother, Karen Rambin, was a district teacher of the year and state finalist before retiring. Rutherford pushed against her calling to teaching in her teens and early 20s, eager to carve out her own path. So it's a special honor to know that the caliber teacher her mother was embracing her passion to shape and serve young people. My mother-in-law is a teacher too, and we're a family of educators. I kind of lost my place. Okay, here we go. It's a big deal for us. I feel like the recognition isn't just for me. It's for my mother-in-law. It's for all of us together. My family is the reason I'm able to be so good at this job. They enabled me to do that, Rutherford said. English language arts teacher said her teaching philosophy is grounded in unconditional love and acceptance, especially with students when students push against and challenge her. Rutherford said trust and connection in her classroom is grounded in relationships, and she devotes considerable time to learning about her students' lives and their interests to better help them succeed. The Lafayette High alumnus said the high school teacher of the year recognition has been validation that her focus on her children's well-being is important. Next up, a bio for Erica Cornay. Erica Cornay says she felt a similar sense of invigoration after receiving Elementary Teacher of the Year. The 30-year-old is set to graduate with her master's in educational leadership this spring and said balancing family life, the pandemic, her teaching career, and graduate studies have been hectic but rewarding. The English language arts and social studies teacher said she uses her experience to connect with her students on a more personal level. She uniquely understands their perspective and uses that connection to set standards, promote accountability, and challenge them, while also addressing their classroom frustrations with compassion. A big thing I try to express to my students is that I'm a student too, and I understand. We push the leader in me habits, and you have to prioritize your stuff. I tell you all, I won't have your papers this week. You're going to be upset. Then they think, well, I have to make sure I have it together because I can't tell my teacher I didn't have time, she said. Like Rutherford, Cornay says she's passionate about the social, emotional side of education. Assigned reading Just Be a Good Person welcomes students at the entrance to her classroom, and she folds the social lessons like how to disagree respectfully, express emotions and thoughts in a factual, straightforward way, holds group discussions, and provide evidence when expressing opinions into each interaction. It's especially necessary for the 5th graders who are beginning to experience the sometimes confusing hormonal effects of puberty while forming their own worldviews, especially when navigating this year's tricky election cycle through the lens of social study lessons, she said. Cornay says she hopes to one day instill kindness, compassion, and confidence into other educators like she does her students. The 8-year educator says she wants to be an administrator who uplifts other teachers. I see how powerful the role of an administrator can be, in a good way and a bad way. I want to be the good way. I want to be supportive, Cornay said. And finally, Charity Turpo. The administration of Acadiana Middle empowered Charity Turpo while the 38-year-old educator battled health problems from type 1 diabetes soon after joining the faculty. In 2007, Turpo was rushed to the emergency room after having a diabetic episode. Her kidneys were failing, and upon release from the hospital, she began 9 months of dialysis, she said. Trapot said her personal challenges never dampened her passion for teaching. Each day she continued to bring 100% to the classroom, leaving from school for her dialysis appointments, where she graded papers, teleconferenced for meetings with coworkers, and answered parent emails. In March of 2018, Trapot says she received a miracle. The same day she was added to the transplant list, a match was found. Within hours, she was in surgery, receiving a new kidney and a new pancreas, which cured her of her type 1 diabetes. The lessons have only continued since, the educator said, and the Middle School Teacher of the Year award feels like an affirmation of her boundless positivity and commitment to not fold in the face of challenges. Trapot says she doesn't like the word challenge, says she looks at obstacles as a change followed by a choice. It represents, I would say, everything. It represents my determination to help kids to learn. It represents the 15 years that I've been teaching and putting my best foot forward no matter what. It represents that if you keep your mind focused and if you keep your mind positive, not only can you, but your students can also, no matter what goes on through your life. I know there are some up and downs that will happen, but if you can pull yourself back up and focus, you can, and your students can as well, Trapot said. The 6th grade math teacher says she's passionate about modeling behavior for her students and takes her role as a teacher and role model seriously. She carries herself with confidence, is an active listener, shows the children it's okay to make mistakes, and that considering different approaches to learning is important. Trapot says she makes her values clear in her actions, but also backs them up with her words, giving the children encouragement when they need it. Her approach is all about building an environment of trust where children have the confidence to succeed and are challenged to be their best selves. Trapot says she welcomes children to voice their perspectives and step into leadership roles when they have learning suggestions. In my classroom, we help, we do not hinder. I'm a great leader, but I can become a great listener as well. I applied that to myself, and I applied that to them as well, she said. Well, looking at our first public service announcement for the morning, a Pieces of Hope, a virtual open mic. On this Wednesday, January 27th at 7 p.m., the Festival Awards host Pieces of Hope virtual open mic on Zoom. For 16 years, the festival has hosted the Grand Coteau-based event featuring writers, musicians, and storytellers. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, this creative community will gather online. Coming together as an act of hope, come to share or just to listen and enjoy. The 2-hour open mic presents 20 writers and musicians, each performing for 5 minutes. Performers are from Lafayette and all over the country and sometimes all over the world. Make yourself a drink, grab some cheese and crackers, and sit back to enjoy some exquisite performances that will soothe, entertain, and enlighten. To join, go to the Facebook page for Pieces of Hope virtual open mic. The link to the Zoom Cafe will be available the week of the event. Or you can contact Martha Gardner at fowmartha@gmail.com or 337-804-2482. Excuse me. This free community event is suitable for all ages and is sponsored by the Festival Awards Cultural Arts Collector. And yours truly will be the host of this event. Continuing with the Acadiana news, the UL mini satellite is currently zipping around the Earth. The device carries a chip designed to detect radiation by the Associated Press. A cubicle satellite small enough to sit on the palm of your hand is zipping around the world and sending data about radiation to the Lafayette students who designed and built it. The satellite, called Cape 3, carries a chip designed and built by students at the University of Louisiana Lafayette to detect radiation with an eye to keeping astronauts safe. The detectors would provide crystal display readings so astronauts could constantly monitor how much radiation they're being exposed to. Lost my place here, sorry about that. The detectors would provide liquid crystal display readings so astronauts could constantly monitor how much radiation they've been exposed to, Dr. Paul Darby, the university's project leader, said in a news release. The satellite also carries a tiny Geiger account so students can tell whether the chip is accurate. Each side of the satellite is only 10 centimeters, less than 4 inches across. It was among 10 launched January 17th from a Virgin Orbit rocket that itself was launched high above the Pacific Ocean from a customized Boeing 747. 8 of the other 9 were built by students at other schools. The 10th was built by NASA, which runs a CubeSat launch initiative to give nonprofit organizations and schools at all levels a chance to do scientific investigations in space and help NASA with exploration and technology development. At least one nano satellite was built by elementary school. Students in Lafayette began receiving radio signals early Monday from the satellite, which circles the world every 90 minutes at 17,000 miles an hour. This is UL's third satellite launched as part of the program. The school's program is called CAPE, and that stands for Cajun Advanced Picosatellite Experiment, and is aimed at preparing students for careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The Cape 1 satellite was built to show that the student team could design and build a satellite that could send radio signals back and could respond to signals sent from Earth. It was monitored for 4 months after its launch in 2007. Cape 2, launched in 2013, had fold-out solar panels, a text-to-speech transmitter, and a parrot repeater that could record audio from Earth and broadcast it back to the sender. Another feature lets the visitors to a children's museum hear their own voices coming back on a radio, as well as send text messages to the satellite. It was monitored for 11 months. Rise One Merchant, a NASA systems safety engineer who was assistant project manager for the Cape 2 launch while a student at UL and is now the Cape's team industry mentor, says students will spend a few weeks grabbing data from the satellite simply to assess every feature and ensure it's all working properly. Then Cape team members and students majoring in areas including computer science, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and physics will be collecting and analyzing the information. Cape team member Nicholas Drozda, a senior mechanical engineering student, said the project let him prepare for an aerospace career while conducting research that could lead to actual innovations in the field. Moving on, we'll look at the crime blotter now, which is put together by the Advocate staff reports. The first story up in the crime blotter section today: 1 dead in Opelousas Saturday shooting spree. Opelousas police are seeking the public's help in identifying the person or people responsible for a shooting spree that killed a man and damaged multiple homes and vehicles. An Opelousas officer on patrol heard gunshots near North Market and Chesney Streets around 8:30 p.m. Saturday, according to a news release from the Opelousas Police Department. The officer discovered a male victim who has not been identified by authorities near the railroad tracks in the area, suffering from a gunshot wound. Although the man was responsive at the time, he was unable to relay any information about the shooter, police said. The man would later die from his injuries at a local hospital just before midnight. Police said several homes and vehicles in the area were also struck by gunfire. Detectives processed the crime scene for evidence. The incident remains under investigation. Anyone with any information is urged to contact the Opelousas Police Department at 337-948-2500 or online at crimetips@opelousaspd.com or through Crime Stoppers. Tipsters can remain anonymous. Woman accused of leaving meth in motel. One person is in police custody after staff at an Abbeville motel discovered narcotics in a room, KATC reported. Abbeville police officers responded to the Sunbelt Lodge on Veterans Memorial Drive at about 11 a.m. Friday after staff found drugs in a room after the tenants checked out, according to Lieutenant Jonathan Touche, department spokesperson. Officers recovered 2 containers disguised as Arizona tea cans with false tops. Instead, they found half a pound of suspected methamphetamine, packaged in 8 one-ounce packages. After officers left, the tenants who stayed in the room returned to the motel and threatened the staff, demanding to get the items from the room, Touche said. The suspects fled the motel when staff called police again. Officers were able to identify and locate the vehicle through video footage. Police said they arrested Paradise Thornton of Lafayette upon finding 2 additional one-ounce packages of suspected methamphetamine on her. Thornton faces charges of possession with the intent to distribute methamphetamine, possession of drug paraphernalia, and obstruction of justice. She is being held at the Vermilion Parish Jail, and this case is still under investigation. 1 girl dead and 4 arrested after a fight. 4 teens have been arrested and a 15 is dead after a fight at a store last night, KATC reported. Calcasieu Parish Sheriff's Office deputies were called to a grocery store in LA 14 in Lake Charles at about 7:30 p.m. Saturday. Deputies learned that several girls were fighting in the store when a 15-year-old girl was stabbed. She was taken to a hospital where she later died, deputies said. After an investigation, sheriff's detectives arrested 4 girls between the ages of 12 and 14 and booked them in connection with the incident. 1 faces a second-degree murder charge, and the other 3 face a principal to second-degree murder charge. The teams are not being identified by law enforcement because of their ages. The investigation is continuing. Anyone with information is asked to contact the Calcasieu Parish Sheriff's Office at 491-3605. Next up is our next public service announcements for the morning. Vitalant, urgent need for blood donations. Blood and platelet donations often drop during the holiday months as fewer donors are available because of seasonal activities and illnesses. But this year, the outlook is particularly worrisome with many schools transition to virtual learning and businesses in work-from-home situations. About 1,600 Vitalant blood drives have already been canceled for the last 2 months of 2020. Currently, there is an urgent need for O-negative blood, the universal blood type that all patients can receive. O-negative blood donors can maximize their impact by giving a power red donation. We encourage donors to make an appointment by visiting Vitalant, that's VITALANT.org, or by calling 877-25-VITAL, that's 877-25-V as in Victor, ITAL. And now we're at the halfway portion of our show. I'll read you the day in history and the zodiac, or horoscope as I like to refer to it. And this is put together by the Associated Press. So today is Monday, January 25th. It's the 25th day of 2021. There are 340 days of potential shopping days left in the year. Today's highlight in history: on January 25th, 1981, 52 Americans held hostage by Iran for 444 days arrived in the United States. Also in this date, in 1533, England's King Henry VIII secretly married his second wife, Anne Boleyn, who later gave birth to Elizabeth I. In 1759, Scottish poet Robert Burns was born in Alloway. In 1915, America's first official transcontinental telephone call took place as Alexander Graham Bell, who was in New York, spoke to his former assistant Thomas Watson, who was in San Francisco, over a line set up by American Telephone and Telegraph. In 1924, the first Winter Olympic Games opened in Chamonix, France. In 1945, the World War II Battle of the Bulge ended as German forces were pushed back to their original positions. Grand Rapids, Michigan became the first community to add fluoride to its public water supply on the same date in 1945. 1947, gangster Al Capone died in Miami Beach, Florida at the age of 48. In 1949, the first Emmy Awards, honoring local Los Angeles TV programs and talent, were presented at the Hollywood Athletic Club. In 1959, American Airlines began Boeing 707 and jet flights between New York and Los Angeles. 1971, Idi Amin seized power in Uganda by ousting President Milton Obote in a military coup. In 2004, NASA's Opportunity rover sipped its first pictures of Mars to Earth, showing a surface smooth and dark red in some places and strewn with fragmented slabs of light bedrock in others. In 2019, President Donald Trump's confidant, Roger Stone, was arrested by the FBI in a pre-dawn raid at his Florida home and charged with lying about his pursuit of Russian-hacked emails damaging to Hillary Clinton's 2016 election bid. Stone was convicted in November 2019 on charges including lying to Congress and witness tampering. Trump commuted his 40-month prison sentence just days before Stone was due to report to prison in July of 2020 and issued Stone a pardon in December of that year. 10 years ago today, pleading for unity in a newly divided government, President Barack Obama used his State of the Union address to implore Democrats and Republicans to rally behind his vision of economic revival, declaring, "We will move forward together or not at all." 5 years ago, President Barack Obama said he would ban the use of solitary confinement for juvenile and low-level offenders in a federal prison, citing the potential for devastating, lasting psychological consequences from the use of the isolation as punishment. Also on this date, 5 years ago, a Houston grand jury investigating undercover footage of Planned Parenthood found no wrongdoing by the abortion provider and instead indicated anti-abortion activists or indicted, anti-abortion activists for using fake driver's licenses while making the videos that targeted the handling of fetal tissue in clinics. The charges were later dropped. 1 year ago, President Donald Trump's defense team opened its argument at his Senate impeachment trial, casting the effort to remove him from office as a politically motivated attempt to subvert the 2016 election and the upcoming 2020 contest. Looking at today's birthdays, actor Lee Taylor Young is 77, actor Jennifer Lewis, 64, actor China Kantner is 50, and she was the daughter of Grace Slick and Paul Kantner, both of Jefferson Airplane and Jefferson Starship. Actor Anna Ortiz is 50, actor Mia Kirshner, 46, actor Christine Lakin, 42, R&B singer Alicia Keys, 41, actor Michael Trevino, 36, and actor Olivia Edward is 14 today. Looking at the zodiac of the horoscope, Aquarius. Avoid impulsive actions, think matters through, and show compassion for others. How you handle situations will determine how well you do. Speak up, be fair, and know when to compromise. Pisces, help a cause you believe in or someone you value. If you show uncertainty, you will confuse or mislead someone you need on your team. Aries, let your intuition guide you. Your gut feeling won't let you down and will save you from making an unnecessary mistake. You have plenty to gain if you are proactive. Taurus, pay attention to what's going on at work or in your field. Gather information, take courses, enlist it in trials, and aim to solve problems. Step up and do what's right. Gemini, make decisions instead of letting someone detect what you can pursue. Use intelligence and insight to take advantage of information that comes from a legitimate source. Cancer, you can take action without spending money or getting involved in a joint venture. Romance is on the rise, and sharing the evening hours with someone special will be rewarding. Leos, you take one step forward and 3 steps back if you let someone interfere with your plans. Do your own thing and structure your day to suit your needs. Virgo, my birth sign. A learning experience will have an impact on how you approach work. Refuse to let anyone discourage or tempt you. Arm yourself with information and skills that give you an edge in a competitive market. Libra, focus more on what you know and less on being physical. It's best to outsmart anyone who stands in your way with facts, figures, and words. Scorpio, uncertainty regarding someone close to you will surface. Be frank, share your thoughts, and listen carefully. Don't be fooled by compliments. Cut to the chase and find out where you stand. Sagittarius, evaluate what's transpired and consider what's ahead before you get into a spirited discussion. A wait-and-see attitude might be best when it comes to professional situations. And finally, Capricorn. Balance and compromise will be necessary when dealing with opposition. A unique solution will appease everyone and give you the freedom to reach your goal. Be conscious of your budget. And as always, a horoscope is an entertainment feature, not based on scientific fact. Well, I've been doing this little piece right after the break, the mid-break with a day in history of the Zodiac. I found online that there were 80 musicians, according to Rolling Stone, noted musicians that passed away in the year 2020. So I'm going to continue with number 31. This is Lee Kerslake. Lee Kerslake was a drummer for Ozzy Osbourne and Uriah Heep, and he died in 2020 at the age of 73. He played on The Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman, Ozzy Osbourne releases. Next up, Ronald Kayla Bell, Kool and the Gang co-founder, Ronald Kayla Bell, he died at the age of 68. He was a singer-saxophonist who co-wrote the band's biggest hits, including Ladies' Night, Jungle Boogie, and Celebration. Trini Lopez, he was very well known for his version of If I Had a Hammer. He died at 83 from the coronavirus. He was a Frank Sinatra signed artist whose 1960 hits included Lemon Tree. He also acted in the film The Dirty Dozen. Miss Mercy. Miss Mercy was a Frank Zappa muse and GTO co-founder. She died at the age of 71. Her band was famously featured in the Rolling Stones special Super Duper Neat issue in 1969. And Simeon Cox. Simeon Cox was a synth pioneer with Silver Apples, dead at the age of 82. He released just two albums during the initial late 60s run, but left a lasting mark at the outset of a new digital age in music. Okay, moving back into the news. We look at the state news now. Brumley, Louisiana needs a reading revival. State education leader decries plunge in scores by Will Santel, staff writer. A new report shows reading scores for Louisiana's youngest students have plunged for 3 consecutive years, raising red flags over arguably the state's top challenge for improving achievement in the classroom. The issue is getting new attention after state leaders learned last week that reading levels for students in kindergarten and first, second, and third grades have all steadily dropped. More than half of those students are performing below grade level, a potential harbinger of major learning problems. Clearly, what we are doing is not getting the results that our kids deserve, State Superintendent of Education Cade Brumley told the State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, or BESE. I am alarmed by this, Brumley added. Reading problems have been an issue for years, and they are one of the reasons why the state ranks near the bottom nationally in education achievement. Previous BESE boards have grappled with the same challenge. In 2007, board members complained they had little to show in reading gains, despite the state spending $100 million since the mid-1990s. But the latest results are especially bleak. A total of 59.6% of kindergarten students were reading below grade level in 2020, up from 49.8% in 2018, according to the State Department of Education. The report also shows 57.7% of first graders are below grade level in reading, compared with 39.4% in 2018. Among second graders, 51.6% fell below the standard, compared with 41.3% 2 years earlier. For third graders, 50.5% were subpar, compared with 40.9% in 2018. For all grades, 55% were reading below grade level in 2020, compared with 42.8% in 2018. I don't want this report to go away and not recognize that we have a challenge in front of us, Brumley said. We need a reading revival in the state. Experts say that if a child is not reading on grade level by the third grade, he or she is at risk of having school problems for years. I think K through 3 is a gatekeeper for everything else that is going to happen, said a former BESE president, Linda Johnson, who served on the board for 13 years. Johnson was part of that discussion 14 years ago when she and others sounded alarms like the one Brumley raised last week. Johnson said the state suffers from a lack of adequate preschool programs, which means too many students enter kindergarten not ready to learn. She said the state has also implemented too many programs for reading improvements with too many stops and starts. Johnson also said the state needs a better partnership with parents to ensure children are getting the stimulation they need at an early age. Leslie Jacobs, another former BESI member who was part of that discussion, or 2007 discussion, said what most teachers learned in their College of Education is not working when it comes to teaching children how to read. Louisiana has shown math gains on national scores after changes in curriculum and instruction. Other states like Florida have shown that you can have significant improvement in reading, and we need to have the same focus on improving the curriculum and instruction in reading that we have in math, Jacobs said. State law requires that students in kindergarten and first, second, and third grades undergo literacy screening within 30 days of the start of the school year. Children in kindergarten are tested on whether they recognize word sounds. First graders are studied for basic phonics, second graders for oral reading fluency, and third graders for reading comprehension. Libby Saunier, a member of Louisiana's Early Literacy Commission, echoed Johnson's concern about kindergarten. Saunier said in some parishes, more than 90% of children who enter kindergarten are ill-prepared to learn. About half are unprepared statewide. It speaks to the need for continued investment in early literacy and how we really need to focus on instruction in those kindergarten, first, second, and third grades, and really spend the time and effort to make sure children are getting the instruction they need, that science support, she said. The commission has twice said Louisiana needs to spend $15 million per year for early literacy. The legislature last year approved $2 million, which is being used to fund pilot projects in 12 urban and rural school districts. Some of the blame for the latest downturn in reading scores is a classroom upheaval triggered by the coronavirus pandemic. 10 months after the pandemic led to the first wave of classroom closings, 40% of students are relying on virtual learning or a combination of virtual and in-person instruction. Last year, 59.1% of kindergarten students tested in person scored below grade level in reading, versus 65.4% of those quizzed virtually. Among first graders, 57.2% of those tested in person were subpar, compared with 63.8% of virtual learners. Second and third grade graders showed slightly higher scores virtually compared with in person. However, about half of students in both grades were performing below expectations. And moving on to our next state stories, school districts grapple with vaccine questions. Most leaders shy away from the idea of mandate for educators, by Charles Lussier, staff writer. As Louisiana ramps up administering vaccines against the coronavirus, schools in the state are beginning to wrestle with how they can get as many of their employees vaccinated as possible. Educators and other school personnel are part of the next priority group, Phase 1B, Tier 2 for vaccination, but with supplies of the vaccine remaining tight, school employees aren't expected to get vaccinated en masse for several weeks yet. In the meantime, many school leaders are planning ahead to the extent that they can. They are figuring out, among other things, who will provide the vaccine, whether vaccinations will be done at school or at a medical facility, as well as identifying the employees who want them and those who don't. What's not being widely discussed is mandating school employees get vaccinated. Just mentioning the idea of a mandate can prompt a strong reaction. We're not going to force our employees to get vaccinated, Wes Watts, superintendent of schools in West Baton Rouge Parish, said it flatly. I don't think we ever want to be in that place, said Ken Campbell, executive director of IDEA Public Schools in South Louisiana. That's IDEA Public Schools in South Louisiana. There's something that doesn't sit right with me about that. IDEA, which is based in Texas, operates 3 charter schools in Louisiana, 2 in Baton Rouge and 1 in New Orleans, which collectively educate more than 2,100 children. Instead, Campbell said he intends to lead by example. My plan is to be the first one there, get it done and get it on video and everyone on our team to go and do it, Campbell said. Employees toying with the possibility of mandating COVID-19 vaccines face an uncertain legal environment. The U.S. Equal Opportunity Commission issued guidance last month saying that employers can require workers to get a COVID-19 vaccine with exemptions for workers with certain medical conditions or religious beliefs. However, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has yet to fully authorize the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. Currently, they are approved only on an emergency basis. While that remains the case, people who are eligible to receive the vaccine have the option to accept or refuse it. That may complicate efforts by employers to enforce in-house mandates. Some Louisiana school districts are hoping for guidance from state and federal authorities before advancing too far in their vaccination planning. We put in several calls to the Louisiana Department of Health to get information, but none as of yet has been provided, said Delia Taylor, a spokesperson for the Livingston Parish School System. Gwen Shamlin, General Counsel for the East Baton Rouge Parish School System, said he's on the lookout for federal guidance from the Biden administration. Many of us are expecting there will be some federal guidance, Shamlin said. NOLA Public Schools, which has already done extensive planning for its upcoming vaccination campaign, is not planning to issue a mandate. The vaccine will not be mandatory for team members, said Dr. Leron Finger of Children's Hospital in New Orleans, which is partnered with the Orleans School District. It's going to be strongly encouraged. Polls show a nation divided when it comes to the new vaccines. In a November survey, about 60% said they would get the COVID-19 shots, up from 50% a month earlier. According to the Pew Research Center, about 17% of educators said they were very unlikely to take the vaccine, and 12% said they were somewhat unlikely in a nationally representative online survey conducted in November by the Ed Week Research Center. Hollis Milton, superintendent in West Feliciana Parish, said he's already approved his 300 plus employees. Of those who have expressed a preference, he said it was split down the middle, with half wanting to be vaccinated and half against the idea. Many staff members, though, weren't sure either way. Milton suspects the undecided will come around as more and more people get vaccinated without issues. If someone doesn't want it, that's fine, Milton said, but if any of our employees want it, I'm going to be as aggressive as I can in helping them get vaccinated. Different districts are in different stages of planning. For instance, the East Baton Rouge school nurses are likely to administer the vaccine at school-based health centers, but also via mobile units supplied by local hospitals that will travel from school to school. Across the river in West Baton Rouge, Superintendent Watts said he's been focused on other COVID-19 related matters up until now. It's probably something we're going to look at in the next couple of weeks really closely, Watts said. Finger advises school leaders in Louisiana through regular online question and answer sessions during a January 13th session. He urged districts right away to gather their list. I don't want to be responsible for calling each school and finding out if they want it, he said. I want a list of people who want the vaccine. Employees who pass may end up waiting a while, he warned. You're rolling the dice and you're going to be put in the next tier with everyone else, Finger said. While important, vaccinating school employees will not allow schools to relax their many COVID-19 restrictions. First of all, school children won't be vaccinated until vaccine is approved for them. Trials are underway for children 12 and older, and more trials are planned for younger children. Also, the virus may still be transmittable even for those who are vaccinated, an unanswered medical question. Finger urges continued vigilance. Once you get vaccinated, your life doesn't change at all. Everything that you've been doing, you're going to continue to do, Finger said. It doesn't give you free rein to go to a bar en masse and convert with other maskless people. I would strongly encourage that you continue to mask when you're out in public, socially distance, and hang out with your nuclear family. It's not a green light to do whatever you want. Campbell of the IDEA Charter System, though, said he's hoping a few more months of vigilance will pay off. Hopefully, we'll have a critical mass of people vaccinated by the start of next school year, along with some semblance of normalcy. He said that would be phenomenal. Okay, we're going to do something a little special this morning. I'm going to read an opinion piece from today's edition of The Advocate. They usually have an opinion editorial, 2 pages of opinions and editorial, and this is they always have a column from their point of view. And this opinion piece is called Our Views. The pandemic is costing Louisiana its way of life, and it's put together by the Advocate editorial staff. And this is their opinion. Early in 2020, we were shocked and stunned when it was suggested that we stay inside our own homes and shut down businesses except for essential services. And it is early 2021, and though it has been months since we've had the stay-at-home orders, some things are beginning to feel familiar. Our state hosts more than 400 festivals annually. They are an important part of our culture. We have not finished the first month of the year, and we have already heard that some of our favorite events have been postponed. The 2021 French Quarter Festival was scheduled for April 8th through 11th. Now will be held September 30th through October 3rd. The 2021 New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival was officially postponed from its usual April-May weekends to October 8th through 17th. There is some question whether the second festival weekend will be 3 or 4 days. The idea of a fall jazz fest would have been unthinkable not long ago. It is affecting festivals and celebrations throughout the state. In Scott, here in Lafayette Parish, the Boudin Festival has been postponed from April to September 24 through 26. Even with fall events, the coronavirus is likely to have an impact, meaning scaling back and putting health and safety guidelines in place. We're going to remain flexible and continue to work in tandem with our community leaders and make sure that we have an event that keeps in mind social distancing and masking and some things that still may be required, said Emily Madero of the French Quarter Festival, as she told WWL-TV. We want to make sure that people can spread out and feel safe, and we are looking into potentially reducing our footprint slightly. We are all ready to get together again and share that special spirit that lives at Jazz Fest. Music director Quint Davis said in a statement, "Your health, along with the health of your musicians, food and craft vendors, and all the folks that work to make the magic happen, remains a priority as we plan to return of Jazz Fest." Scott officials said the decision was for the health and safety of all festival and city guests, volunteers, vendors, and staff. Fortunately, more people in Louisiana are getting virus vaccines, protecting more citizens from the ravages of the coronavirus, and getting us closer to the community immunity we need to help to get us beyond this horrible stretch. Unfortunately, since late November, our new COVID-19 cases and the number of deaths have been increasing because the virus is extremely contagious and not enough people are doing the basics to limit community spread. We cannot have it both ways. We cannot flaunt legitimate public health emergency guidelines and return to our normal diet of spring, summer, and fall festivals, entertainment, and fun. Okay, we're going to delve into our sports for the day. Acadiana defensive back Welch pledges to LSU. DB, or defensive back, stays patient despite injuries sidelining him for much of season. Kevin Foote, sports and staff writer. If nothing else, Acadian High junior cornerback Terrence Welch has learned and displayed patience over the past year. Still flying high from a state championship, and the recruiting offers really heating up. The 6'1", 180-pound Welch suffered a torn meniscus in May and underwent surgery in early June. But Welch never flinched. He never doubted the injury would hurt his worth on the recruiting trail, and he never worried about missing the entire Wrecking Rams run in a second consecutive state title. "No, sir, I was never worried," said Welch, who committed to LSU on Sunday. After all, he ended up with 29 offers, including ones from Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Arkansas, Florida State. All Welch needed, though, was one. So when LSU came calling about 2 weeks ago, there wasn't much of a decision to make. "I decided as soon as I got the offer," Welch said. "It's my dream school. It's so close to my home. It's only about 35 minutes away. My family and friends can watch all of my games." Because of the injury, Welch didn't play until the final 2 games of the season. "I was humble about everything," Welch said. "I just took my time with my recovery. I didn't stress about it at all. I knew I was going to be able to play in some games. Welch credited the coaching staff with being patient with him as well, and as soon as he got the go-ahead from the doctor, I was at practice that evening. Despite missing almost the entire season, Welch said the transition back to the field was as smooth as he expected. It was like riding a bike, Welch said. I'm an athlete. I wasn't worried about anything. I wasn't worried about my knee. I just wanted to play football, and I played great. Welch was right in the thick of things in the final two drives of Acadiana's 35-34 state championship game win over Alexandria. Welch delivered the game-clinching play with an interception on a potential game-winning two-point conversion pass in the final minute of regulation. Even in June, Welch said he wasn't worried about his absence, trusting his teammates to keep the Rams' momentum rolling. In my mind, I was just thinking about what it took to win the game, Welch said. If it came to my side, I'm going to do what it took to win the game. And if it went to the other side, I trusted my guys to do what they had to do to win the game. Welch nearly had an interception to ice the win on the previous possession, but a collision with a teammate resulted in a completed Hail Mary touchdown pass for the Trojans to stay alive. It was frustrating because it let them back in the game, Welch said. All we really needed to do is knock it down. I felt the ball coming right to me, but as soon as I had it in my hands, my teammate hit me in the stomach and cut my win. But just like Welch always believed, it worked out fine. Acadiana was crowned Class 5A state champions for the second straight season. It was a blessing, he said. Now I'm trying to get 3. And looking at our last public service announcements for the morning, everyone should have shelter, and Louisiana nights are getting colder. Due to COVID-19 and concerns for community spread, there has been a dramatic decrease in available shelter beds. That means many experiencing homelessness may have no other option than to sleep on the street. Throughout this pandemic, Acadiana Regional Coalition on Homelessness and Housing, or ARCH, has been able to utilize local hotel and motel rooms as a temporary housing solution. From there, case managers help out fellow Acadians transition to permanent housing. ARCH is very proud of their success in keeping those they serve safe from COVID-19 and on the way to long-term stability. However, the number of homeless is growing, and ARCH needs your help to get our neighbors out of the cold and into warm, safe housing. We're asking for your help today. And so go to ARCH Acadiana, that's ARCH Acadiana.org. If you would prefer to give by check, please mail it to ARCH ARCH at P.O. Box 3936, Lafayette, LA 70502. And finally, the funerals today in the Acadiana area. Adia Borrell at St. Joseph Catholic Church at 2 p.m. and Vernon Laurie at St. Charles Borromeo Roman Catholic Church at 10:30 a.m. Well, this has been a Local News Live for January 25th, 2020. I've been your reader, Bruce Cohen. You can join us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on AOC One or Cypress Street Radio, our online streaming radio service, or our YouTube channel, which is AOC Community Media. You can read these stories and more at theadvocate.com. And you can also go to our homepage, which is aocinc.org. That's aocinc.org. Put down the volunteer page, look up a newspaper volunteer reader, fill out the statement, the form there, and Miss Mandy or Mr. Matt will be in touch with you, and you can join our newspaper reading, volunteer reading family. We have been doing this from our home studios since the pandemic hit. We can't really go into the podcast booth we used to go into and love, but that day will come back sometime soon. So this, again, has been Bruce Cohen. Will always be Bruce Cohen. Stay healthy, stay safe, and stay smart. Like I read about this, even when getting the vaccines, it's still a possibility of transferring or getting the virus, and the virus is as strong as it's ever been. It's not going away anytime soon, so we have to stay vigilant. We have to stay smart. Just go out there, wear your mask. The experts are now suggesting that you double mask because the variants that are happening within this virus are stronger and much deadlier. So just double mask, wash your hands, do all the protocols that need to take place, and let's stop the spread. So I thank you for joining us this morning. You have a great day. I bid you farewell this morning. I'll see you on the flip-flop.